Most American cities were built slowly over generations. San Francisco erupted. In January 1848, James Marshall spotted gold in a river at Sutter's Mill, and the news turned a quiet outpost into an instant metropolis. Within a single year, the local population spiked from 800 residents to 25,000. Hundreds of ships arrived from Chile, China, and the East Coast, turning the harbor into a crowded forest of wooden masts. But this massive influx of arrivals immediately hit a physical wall. This map shows the San Francisco Peninsula, a strict 49-square-mile boundary, boxed in by the bay and the Pacific Ocean. To reach this tiny dot, travelers crossed thousands of miles. The journey was so brutal that traditional rules simply did not survive. This geographic trap created a permanent crucible. People came here because they had literally run out of continent. Boxed into this small, isolated space, they had to invent a completely new way to live. The first real test of this physical space happened in April 1906. A 7.9 magnitude earthquake hit the city. The shaking lasted 45 seconds, and the fires that followed burned for 3 days, erasing 490 city blocks. In this already tight geographical container, 225,000 people were suddenly left homeless. Thousands of buildings were reduced to skeletal remains and ash. Instead of abandoning a dangerous fault line, the survivors made a stubborn choice. They rebuilt the entire city on the exact same street grid in just 3 years. That sheer speed forged San Francisco's earliest myth about itself, the idea that the city might be leveled by catastrophe, but it could only ever be reset, never fully erased. By the 1930s, massive new bridges finally connected the peninsula to the mainland. Yet even with cars pouring across the bay, the city maintained its status as an isolated haven for outsiders. In the 1950s, writers like Jack Kerouac and Allen Ginsberg arrived in North Beach. They used the city's extreme distance from the East Coast establishment to carve out a new literary scene that actively rejected post-war American conformity. A decade later, that foundation of dissent drew 100,000 young people to the Haight-Ashbury neighborhood in a single summer. Musicians like the Grateful Dead and Janis Joplin played free concerts in the parks, while figures like Timothy Leary urged crowds to drop out of traditional society. In 1967, San Francisco became the global epicenter of youth rebellion. These decades established San Francisco as an experimental laboratory for American counterculture. The goal of the city shifted from the extraction of gold to the exploration of new identities, creating an environment where dissent became a central feature of public life. By the 1970s, the Castro District had become America's first openly gay neighborhood, drawing men and women rejected by the rest of the country. Here, Harvey Milk opened a camera shop and became the first openly gay elected official in California history. When Milk was assassinated by a fellow supervisor in 1978, 200,000 people marched through the city in silence. The Castro didn't retreat. It solidified as a permanent monument to human rights. This graph charts the arrival of a devastating new threat. In 1981, the first cases of what would be called AIDS appeared. Over the next 11 years, the disease killed more than 12,000 San Franciscans, testing the city's empathy to its absolute limits. In response, the community created the Names Project Memorial Quilt and forced the city government to act. San Francisco built the first municipal public health infrastructure in America specifically designed for HIV. The geographic density as the Castro allowed for the creation of a municipal public health model, linking community clinics, housing, and social services that became a primary blueprint for urban responses to the epidemic in cities across the country. Through every iteration, one physical fact remains constant. The waters of the San Francisco Bay, surrounding islands like Alcatraz, have outlasted every historical era. This geography has always controlled who enters and how they arrive, serving as a boundary and a gateway for hundreds of thousands of immigrants processed at the Angel Island Detention Center. It creates a specific aesthetic at the edge of the world. Every afternoon, thick fog rolls through the Golden Gate, effectively sealing off this 49-square-mile container from the rest of the continent. San Francisco exists as a simultaneous stack of physical layers. The street grid of the Gold Rush era sits directly beneath counterculture hubs and modern technology headquarters, with every identity the city has ever worn remaining visible at once. The rest of the country continues to use this city as its ultimate sociological laboratory, precisely because it sits at the extreme physical edge, where the old rules naturally fade away. As long as there is an end to the continent, there will be a geographic pressure cooker,